For example, guys, if you see any professional person, for example, if you take data scientist, take data analyst, mm, if you take data engineer, so one thing is common in all these people, that is something called as data. Okay. So in order to do any type of operations regarding the data analytics, data science operations, or data engineering related activities, first what you should know, you should understand what is the data, and you should understand what are the different characteristics of the data, and you should understand what is the source of origin of the data and the transformation that it has gone. Okay. So first we need to have a understanding regarding what is data. So today what we are going to do, we are going to see the concepts of data. What is data? What are the different forms of the data? What are the transformations that data undergo? Okay. And what are the different forms of data? This is what we are going to see in today's session. Okay. So if you see here, we have two types of data mainly. So one is qualitative data and another is quantitative data. So we have two types of data mainly. So one is qualitative data and another is quantitative data. Okay. So what is qualitative data? So qualitative data means the data is descriptive in nature. So qualitative data is descriptive in nature. It describes an attribute that can be observed but cannot be measured. So qualitative data, what is the thing is we cannot measure it, but we can only describe it. We can only describe its attributes. For example, if someone asks you what is the flavor of ice cream, our answer is vanilla, butterscotch, or chocolate. If somebody asks what is the color of hair, we will just say the color of the hair. If somebody asks you what is the profession, you will say the type of profession. So this is a data, this is a data, this is a data. But this data cannot be measured. It can only observe. Such type of data we call it as qualitative data. Okay. And we have another type of data which is called as quantitative data. So what is quantitative data? So quantitative data, the data which is in numeric measure. So data which is in numeric measure and which can be measured, such type of data is called as quantitative measure data. Okay. So for an example, if you want to see, so this quantitative data, what we can do, we can measure that one. Example, height of a student's cost, age. If you see an example of this qualitative data, so yesterday, if you remembered, we had worked with demographic data. So what I'm doing, let me open the demographic data set. So come here, go to the dataset folder, open this demographic data. So this is demographic data. Here we have different columns: country name, country code, birth rate, internet users, and then we have something called as income. Okay. So in this, if you see, we have a country with the name Aruba and its code is ABW. Its birth rate is 10.244 and the internet users are 78.9 and it belongs to a high income country. Okay. So in this data, if you observe qualitative data, data is descriptive in nature. It can be observed, but it cannot be measured. So if you take this high income country, Afghanistan, low income country, Angola, upper middle income country, Albania, United Arab Emirates, high income country. So what is this type of data? This is qualitative data. We can only, it is in descriptive nature. We can only describe it, but cannot be measured. And qualitative data, quantitative data. So quantitative data is a numeric measure. For example, here we have birth rate column. We have internet users column. So birth rate 10.244, it is measurable. So what type of data it is? Qualitative data, quantitative data. Internet users 78.9. That means it is quantitative data. So quantitative data is measurable. So if you see here, this is a quantitative data column, this is a quantitative data column, this is a qualitative data column. Okay. So that is the thing. And now if you categorize the data, okay. So if you categorize the data, data is categorized based upon the type, based upon the process it undergoes, based upon the form, based upon the source of generation, and based upon the size, the data is categorized. Okay. So if you check the types of data, so mainly when you check the types of data, we have something called as categorical variable. We have something called as quantitative variable data. So categorical variable data, we have different types of categorical variable data, categorical, binary data, normal data, ordinal data, ratio, and interval. Okay, so let us see what is binary data, what is normal data, what is ordinal data, what is ratio, what is interval. Okay, so binary data means you have only two possible states, that is 0 and 1. Suppose if you toss a coin, we have only two possibility states, that is head or tails. So if you take switch on or switch off, only two possibilities, on or off. So if you take the dot and dash of Telegram also, you have only two possibilities, one is dot and other is dash. So binary data always have only two possibilities of states. And then normal data. Okay, so nominal data, sorry, nominal data. So what is nominal data? If you observe here, so if you observe here, we have different categories of books over here. So here we have fiction related books. Here we have horror related books. Here we have scientific related books and all. So what matter is the fiction related books should be in fiction only. Horror related books should be in the label under the label of horror only. Scientific book related books should be under the label of scientific only. Okay. So here, whether fiction is here or the fiction is here, it does not matter. But what matters, under that label, that particular category books are there or not. Such type of segregation of data is nothing but nominal data. So nominal data is a categorical data. So the categorical data, where the data is coded in a manner that it represents a label. So data is coded in the manner it represents a label. You can only count but cannot order the measure nominal data. So we can say how many fiction books are there, how many horror books are there, how many scientific books are there. But it is not important that whether fiction is here or fiction is here. Okay. So example names of the cars. Suppose if you take Kia cars, all the Kia cars comes under a label of Kia. All the Honda cars comes under a label of Honda. If you take the maternal status, all the male people comes under the label of male, all the female people comes under the label of female. Okay, so that type of data is nothing but nominal data, guys. Okay, and then we have something called as ordinal data. Okay, so ordinal data means, if you see here, we have a metal tally here. Okay, so if you observe this Norway, it has got 26 medals. And if you see US, it got 28 medals. But Norway is in second position, whereas US is in fourth position. Okay. So what is the reason for that case? Why Norway is in second position, though it get less medals than US, and why US is in fourth position?
Maximum number of gold medals.
Yes, exactly. If you see, Norway got 11 gold medals, whereas US got only 9 gold medals. So here, the order is maintained based upon a hierarchy. So what is that hierarchy? Number of gold medals. So what is ordinary data? Data is ordered. It has higher natural hierarchy. Okay. So why we use this ordinal data is to measure the customer satisfaction, metal tally table, and other things. Okay. So this type of data is nothing but ordinal data. Okay. Then we have two types of data again. One is discrete data and another is continuous data. Okay. So we have two types. One is discrete data and other is continuous data. So what is discrete data? So discrete data means the data is in numerical number or it is a numerical data. The finite number of possible values, only we have finite number of possible values. For example, if we ask how many people are there in the room, so we have a finite answer. So what answer? Suppose six people are there, we say six people. Suppose if we ask how many items are there in the basket, we say that there are 10 items or 12 items and all. So this is a discrete figure. Okay, if a figure, or else you can say a whole number. So the data which is in a form of a whole number, we call that as a discrete data. Okay. So the data where there are infinite number of possibilities and usually the data will be in the form of decimals, that type of data is called as continuous data. So do remember this, both discrete data and continuous data, both are numeric data, both are numeric only. But what is the difference? This data will be in the form of a number, whole number. So this number generally, this continuous data will be in the form of decimals. For example, if you see weight of a person. So if you consider weight of a person, morning when we got up, that person weight might be around 80 kgs. Afternoon after having lunch, he might be 81. Night when he is going to sleep, he might be 81.80.5, something like that. So where the data is continuously changing and usually the type of data will be in the form of a decimal numbers. So such type of data is nothing but continuous data. Okay, even our account balance also. When amount is credited, account balance increase. When we debited, amount is debited, decrease and all. So the continuous change in the figure will happen. So such type of data is nothing but continuous data. Okay. So data again in descriptive data and continuous data. Fine. Yeah. And if you see here, so go, we have something called as raw data. So what is raw data? Raw data is a data which is ready to process. Generally, raw data have errors, validation errors, multiple forms, unformatted thing. So raw data means, guys, for example, the data which is collected from different sources, where it has some missing values. Certain missing values are there. For example, let me show you one example to you. Come here. Uh, Let me open one data set. Sample data with missing values. So if you see, I have an Excel. In this Excel, I have customer ID, I have customer ID, I have customer age, I have customer annual income, I have customer spending score, I have customer city from where he is. So if you see here city, there is a missing value. If you see income, there is a missing value. Okay. Suppose age in this column, for example, a 170 is entered. It might be by mistake. But is this a valid data 170? It is not a valid data because it is highly impossible for a person to live up to the age of 170 years. Okay. Suppose if you consider here in the column city, some XYZ is entered. Some XYZ is entered. So was it a valid city? No, it is not a valid city. Okay. So Raw data means, for example, this is a raw data, guys. What we have to do, we have to fill these values. Okay. And we have to do a lot of things with this data, this Excel, before we start working. So if you see what is raw data, so come here. If you go and see what is raw data have errors. It has validation problems. It has multiple formats and other things. So that is the raw data. Generally, in the real world, data scientist, data analyst, we get raw data. And what we have to do with the data, we have to process the data. So what we have to do with the data, we have to process the data. So what is processing of the data means processing of the data means scrubbing of the data, cleansing of the data, merging of the data, formatting the data, transforming the data. So doing all such type of activities. Okay, so what we do generally in the real term, we take a data where we have missing values, raw data and all, we format that one. We clean that data, we merge that data, we format that data, we transform that data. So such type of data is called as processed data. So this processed data, generally we work with this type of processed data in the real term. So never we will work with the data where the data is a raw data which has junk values, which has missing values, which has corrections, and which has duplicate entries and all these type of things. So when we take a raw data and we process that data, we call it as the processed data. And what is processed data? This processed data is the data which will be used by the data scientist and data analyst to do the work, guys. Fine. And if you see what are the different types of data collections. So we have different types of data collections. One type of data collection is census. So what we do census, in census we collect the data. So census generally government will take care of this one. So government people, government employees, they will go door to door and collect the information. So that is the thing but census. It is one type of collection in the data. Next, observational study. So what is observational study? For example, a patient is admitted in the hospital. So that from that patient, time to time, his BP, blood sugar, other types of values has to be taken. Okay, we should note his blood pressure, sugar levels, and other things. So what we do from time to time, we take the samples and then we check with the blood pressure and other things. What type of collection of data? It is an observational study data. Next, we have something called as convenience sample. So another form of type of collection of data is nothing but convenience sample. So what is this convenience sample? Convenience sample means, for example, we have two people in our group. Okay, suppose for example, consider we have Yogi and Suresh. So I asked Yogi and Suresh to collect the information. Okay, so I want to launch an app. So please promote this app to the people. So what they are doing is Suresh convenience is he has a college nearby to his home. So what he has done, he has gone to the college and he asked every person to download the app and give certain information. And Yogi, he stays near to a mall. So what he does, he went to the mall for collecting the data. So this type of collection of data is nothing but convenience sample based upon the convenience. So Suresh convenience is cool and Yogi convenience is mall. So they are collecting the data based upon their convenience, proximity, and the researching. And next, another type of collection of data is randomized trial data. So sometimes we randomly take a value. Okay. So when we are making an observation, like physics observation or anything, randomly we take some value. Such type of collection of data is nothing but randomized trial. Okay. And then we have again different forms of data. If you see structured data. So what is structured data? Structured data means a data is having a well-defined organization. For example, if you see this data is very well organized. So it has rows, it has columns, ID, first name, last name, and all. Okay, so generally the structured data. So this type of data, which is organized and well defined, it is called as structured data. So generally, the structured data, it will be in the form of arrays, vectors, or tables. And sometimes they will have the relationships between the different structures also. So two tables may have relationship also. Okay. Such type of data is nothing but structured data. Okay. And then we have something called as unstructured data. So what is unstructured data? Data is organized in an arbitrary manner and the type of, so for example, videos are there, images are there. Suppose what I did, we have a CC camera at junctions, at traffic signals. What it will do, it will take the photographs of the people who are not wearing the helmets. What is that it is doing? It is collecting the data, but the data does not have any structure. Such type of data is called as unstructured data. Okay. And your resume. So not two students will have the same resume. It is also an example of unstructured data. And then we have something called as semi-structured data. So what is semi-structured data? The information is stored in the form of XML. So the HTML data, the websites contains, and the XML, how the data is transported, such type of data are called as semi-structured data, guys. Okay. And then we have demographic view of a data and a psychographic view of a data. So demographic view of a data generally describes a person. So she is a woman, single, age, her income. Psychographic data generally describes about the quality of the person, loves to travel, subscription for fashion magazine, spends annually this much, and other things. Okay. So, and another type of data we have, that is something called as batch data and real-time data. So what is batch data? So batch data means the data which is collected in periodic intervals. There will be a delay in the availability of certain data and a periodicity is maintained for its collection. Such type of data is called as batch data. Example based batch data. For example, yesterday there is a cricket match. So that cricket match, that scoreboard and all, in today's newspaper, you can see what is the scorecard, what is the summary of the match and all. Such type of data is batch data where there is a delay in availability, if you see. And certain periodicity is also maintained for collecting that one. So such type of data is called as batch data. And we have something called as real-time data. So what is this real-time data? Data is collected in the real term and the data is delivered and is generated. So there should be no delay or timeliness. So example of this real-time data is, suppose you went to a supermarket. What you are doing, you want to pay the bill. What you do, you take your card and you give your card to that person. So they will swipe the card. So immediately all the information has to come. So how much is the bill? How much balance does you have? How much amount has to be deducted and other things. There should be no delay. If there is a delay, then obviously it will be a problem. They will ask you to leave the queue and they will go to the next person. So what is real-time data? Real-time data means the data is collected in the real term. There should not be any delay. Okay, so such type of data is nothing but real-time data, guys. And next, different source of generation of data. So we have different sources of generation of data. So data is generated from blogs, documents. Data is generated from web logs. Suppose if you go to a site, you give your information, your name, your age, your mail ID, and so many things. So their data is maintained. So device is generated. So the cameras at the traffic signals, the CC cameras in the malls. So what they are doing, they are device generated data. So we have something called as internal data also. So what is internal data? The data which is generated within the organization. Okay. So the data which is generated within the organization. Suppose if you go to an organization maintains so many things, employees data, the HR person has. Okay. So if you go to the school will maintain a lot of information. Okay. Suppose if you go to a company, go to organizations, go to a mall, they maintain a lot of data. So internal data, generally data is generated internally. Sales data, logistics data, finance data, HR data, so many things will be there. So bank people, they maintain a lot of data. So what is that? That is an internal data. And we have something called as external data also. So what is external data? So the data that is generated by the external bodies, bureaucrats and other things. So that type of data is external data. Okay. Next, what are the different quality issues of the data? So when we are working with the data, we should also know about what are the different quality issues of the data. So the quality issues of the data mainly is with missing values, missing data. Sometimes the data may be missing. Okay, suppose one column, the name has to be entered, name is not there. Junk values, so invalid, some characters or any type of data, and inaccurate or incomplete form of the data. Okay, for example, inaccurate or incomplete form of a data. For example, address is there. They had mentioned Hyderabad 35. What is that? That is an inaccurate and incomplete definition. Next, completion of data, left in back. Next, valid data, invalid data. For example, name is there. In the place of name, a number is entered. What is that? That is an invalid data. Inaccurate data. Suppose I am measuring the temperature of a person. So by mistake, I measured it as 120. It is very wrong. It is not accurate. And next, timeliness of data, delay in availability. So sometimes when you are swiping your card and all, so what it will say session time over. What is there? There is a delay in the availability. Next, inconsistency in the data, no proper consistency of making the data. So all these things will lead to the data quality issues. What are the data quality issues? Missing data, junk values, definition, completeness, validity, accuracy, timeliness, and consistency. So if you see, because of these data quality issues, there will be a mess up. An example, guys, in Great Britain, a news article has come saying that pregnant men in Great Britain, 17,000 men were pregnant between 2009 and 2010. So men will never become pregnant. So why this horrifying story? Why this article has come in the newspaper? Because of data quality issues. Because they have to code it. Female is coded with a O and man is coded with 0. So by mistake, instead of entering O, they had entered a 0. And due to this coding problem, what happened? This horrifying story has come into the picture. Okay. So that is the reason you should be very much careful while working with the data. So real term guys, data extraction, working with the data is very important. Data cleaning is very important. So lot of time, see in the project, lot of time will be consumed in checking this data quality issues, validating the data, giving a perfect form to the data. For example, data sometimes will be in the PDF form. Sometimes data will be in the Excel form. Sometimes data will be in SQL tables. Sometimes data will be in JSON format. Sometimes data will be in HTML format, XML format. But still, you need to connect with them. You need to work the data. You need to pull the data. So that will be the big challenge in the real-time industry, working with the data, collecting the data, cleaning the data, processing the data. So the majority of the time for the data scientist and data analyst will be gone here, taking the raw data and processing the data and working with the data. Guys. Okay. So that is the thing. So this is about the quality of data. What are the different types of the data and other things? And